could arm pump be a byproduct of having too much of a discrepancy between your practice bike and your race bike? And the answer is absolutely yes. All factory teams work on trying to keep the parity between the practice bike and the race bike as minimal as possible. That's going to include the tire selection, gearing, where the forks are at in the triple clamp, spring settings. Obviously, when we go to the track, conditions change, but when we're looking at trying to avoid arm pump, particularly at the amateur racing level, what we notice is that there tends to be a big discrepancy between a fresh bike for race day and a bike that you have to practice with on a daily basis. Things like the frame being stretched out, the frame not being quite as rigid on the practice bike versus the race bike. Horsepower discrepancies, obviously we put a lot of hours on the bike during the week, we're going to naturally lose some horsepower. Where we see all of these situations kind of arising on race day and gets put into the category of arm pump is when the bike is so fresh and so snappy with great hookup, you find yourself hanging on instead of being centered over the bike. When you're centered over the bike, almost the bike has a tendency to push you instead of you, when your belly button gets behind the center line of the bike where the pegs are at, the only thing left to hang on are your forearms. So it puts a tremendous amount of load on the arms. And I hope you can see now, if there's a big speed difference, power delivery difference between the way that you practice on the bike and the way you practice and the way that the bike is set up and what you're racing on the weekend, is definitely going to contribute to arm pump. Our goal is to be over, maybe even a little bit more centered and or over the front of the bike, so the bike has a tendency to push you instead of you hanging on for dear life being pulled. So great question from Mark. If you happen to have any questions about anything related to moto, please feel free to send me a direct email. You can do so at contact@coachrob.com, and I appreciate you watching the video.